Retro.
Are you an aspiring Jedi, or do you dabble with the dark side of the Force?
Regardless of whether you fancy yourself a defender of the light or an aspiring Sith Lord, you're going to need a lightsaber.
Podcast Stardust is pleased to partner with Saber Masters, the creators of high-quality, durable, and affordable lightsabers.
Saber Masters is preparing to launch the Ultimate Lightsaber 2.0, and right now you can get 2 for the price of 1.
So, check out the link in our show notes and go get your Ultimate Lightsabers from Saber Masters.
And don't forget to use our referral code STARDUST to save $10 at checkout.
And each purchase using our referral code helps support Podcast Stardust.
Hi, this is Fred Tatasciore, and you're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. The Force is strong with both of them.
Hello there, Star Wars fans. I'm Jay Krebs.
And I'm Dennis Keithley.
And this is another fully armed and operational edition of Podcast Stardust, the galaxy source for Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. And before we begin, Dennis, can you let everyone know where we can be found on social media?
We can be found on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
All right, so this is episode 720 of Podcast Stardust, and today we are bringing you a special monthly feature called World Between Worlds, a mystical dimension that connects Star Wars fashion and lifestyle products to your space and time. And the goal in mind is to bring you a wide variety of ideas for products to surround you, outfit you, and bind your style sense together, kind of like the Force. And kind of branching out into cosplay this month as well. So I've got some fun updates from Fan Expo Cleveland, as well as some other fun product updates as well. But before we dive into this month's products and cosplay galore, as always, Dennis and I like to fill everyone in on any recent acquisitions, updates on products that we have, and maybe some things we have our eye on. So Dennis, I will let you go first. Anything new?
Yes, it's not Star Wars, but go with me here. It's Star Wars adjacent, and I am hoping they will branch out into Star Wars as well. I'm talking about it. So my lovely wife, Beth, surprised me last week with a couple presents, and these were collector's boxes from Bones Coffee, which I think we've talked about at some point in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But the 2 boxes she sent me were themed. The first one was the Haunted Mansion from Disneyland, and the second one was Spider-Man. Beautiful boxes, great pieces of art on them, and then each box contained a collector's mug. So obviously something themed to the Haunted Mansion for the Haunted Mansion box, and then a box with a Spider-Man. It's a blue-red mug. It kind of looks handcrafted. Great coffee mugs. And then each box came with a specialty coffee. So the Haunted Mansion came with a caramel brownie bag of coffee beans, and that's the one I've brewed so far. It's absolutely delicious. Used a little bit of chocolate caramel creamer with it, and even better. And then the Spider-Man box came with a toasted marshmallow coffee flavor, which I haven't had an opportunity to try. So I'm going to talk about this. I so want them to do this for Star Wars. They need to do this for Star Wars. They need to give us one of these beautiful collector boxes again for that. I've thoroughly enjoyed the mugs. I thought the boxes were great. These would be such awesome gifts for Star Wars fans. So if you're listening, Bones Coffee, make that happen. They currently have an Indiana Jones treasure trove bundle that you can buy on their website. So I know they work with Lucasfilm.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it over the goal line here and make Star Wars happen.
Oh, that would be fantastic. And the pictures that you sent me were beautiful, especially that Haunted Mansion one. I don't know what it is about it, but I don't know if it's the colors or if it's just the textures in the box and on the mug or what it is, but they're beautiful.
Yeah, you got that Madame Leota art that's on there, and the purples and teals that they use for a lot of the Haunted Mansion imaging there. I mean, it's licensed, so it's they're pulling stuff straight out of the Disney parks for the imagery there. And Spider-Man looks like Spider-Man. It's a fantastic box. It's got a lot of comic type imagery that they use to decorate all that. So go check it out. They currently have boxes related to Fallout and the Nightmare Before Christmas as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, great gets.
Yeah. How about you? You got anything to share?
Yeah, well, the first thing actually that I was able to acquire this month was a surprise. It was gifted to me by a teacher friend of mine who was out doing some thrifting, and she found a Star Wars Episode 1 Queen Amidala paper doll book that is completely intact. And so I don't know if any of our listeners remember the paper doll books back from, way back in the day, but you would punch these out of these books and then they would have little tabs on them that you could then kind of wrap around the doll itself. And so you could change in and out the different outfits. And so, of course, from Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, Padme had a lot of different outfits. So it's got everything from her red invasion gown, and it's got her arrival on Tatooine gown. It has her celebration gown at the very end. It has the one that was actually worn by Sabe, which is kind of black with some feathers. It has that huge, very Japanese inspired red gown that she wears in the Senate with the two big headpiece things coming off each side of them. And then the purple one that almost looked like Leku in the front. And then the one that's also, again, very Japanese looking that has the obi and the kimono kind of looking thing, which is the gray, silvery with almost like a fan kind of a headpiece on the top. So just a beautiful, beautiful find. And this one it's actually a really big book, and it was put out by Random House, and it's called a Punch and Play book. And it retailed for $3.99 back in 1999. So it's actually still in a protective plastic bag. So I don't know if I will ever take it out. Even though the little girl in me definitely wants to be like, hey, I want to play with this Queen Amidala paper doll book. But it's a very unique thing. And so, I was very, very happy and humbled to receive this. So yeah, very cool, especially because it is the 25th anniversary, of the Phantom Menace. It makes it even better.
It's pretty cool that someone had something like that still intact. So
Right. Yeah. It almost makes you wonder if they bought a few of them kind of in bulk, and kind of kept a hold of them. But any rate, it was an awesome find.
definitely.
So yes, I really appreciated that one. And then I am going to be talking about Fan Expo Cleveland a little bit and my most recent cosplay build here. But while I was at Fan Expo Cleveland, I was able to do a little bit of shopping. And so if you've listened to World Between Worlds before, we've actually had her on as a guest. So Ashley Cox, Fangirling Over Jesus, was actually at Fan Expo Cleveland. And so one of the shopping sprees that I went on was to acquire a few things from her pop-up shop there at her booth there at Fan Expo Cleveland. So I've talked before about the water tumblers that I had purchased. So I had purchased a Hera one, and how much I love it because it is a stainless steel, double-walled thermal type of insulated beverage container, and it comes with its own little reusable steel straw. And so I actually picked up two more. So I got a Rex one, and then Ashley did a whole thing with Taylor Swift is obviously very, very popular, and her whole Eras tour is just the thing that everyone is kind of springboarding off of. So she did a theme with the women of Star Wars, and she kind of set it up almost like the Eras tour kind of thing. And so I got a tumbler with that on it and a t-shirt with that on it, actually. And then I also got a Bad Batch headband that it looks like Hunter's headband with the skull on it. So I can just wear that to keep my bangs out of my eyes. And then I also picked up what is now being called a crossbody bag, but it's a fanny pack. Let's just call it what it is. But depending on how you wear it, but it's a Hera and Chopper that is themed in that way. So that was a lot of fun as well. And a bunch of stickers and that kind of thing. So that was a lot of fun. And then I also picked up a print from an artist named Alan Four, who is I've actually become pretty close friends with just through the con circuit and everything like that. But I picked up a K2SO print and it's absolutely gorgeous. But you have to check out Alan on Instagram, as well as he has his own Etsy store. Not only does he have Star Wars items, but he also does Star Trek, Doctor Who, DC, MCU, and other fun stuff too. And he does take commissions. So he is found on Instagram with the username Portraits by Alan. Very easy to find him. And you can also find his Etsy store as well. So those are the main things that I picked up because I've been mainly spending my money on my cosplay, getting ready for Fan Expo Cleveland.
Well, yeah, that's been an enormous build over the past several months as well. So I can imagine that was quite the investment. So yeah, go ahead and please tell us about
Indeed.
that.
Yeah, I definitely will. There's a few things, real quick hits that I wanted to throw out there to everybody, just for some new products that if you are in need of some things, especially with Mother's Day coming up and, just the like. Hannah Anderson actually has a brand new Star Wars collection. So it is matching styles for every fan in the family. And so Hannah Anderson is very well known for their pajama sets. And then there's also a whole bunch of new things from Heroes and Villains out there. I actually just got an email today that they have new Velcro slides available in Star Wars. There's a beautiful Ahsoka full length skirt out there right now from Heroes and Villains as well. And I just saw that one modeled on Instagram, and it's in basically Ahsoka's blue and white markings on her, montrals and head tails. And then there's a wraparound, it's a wraparound skirt, but the belt itself is kind of a leather and it hangs down. And so Jen Marie, Anakin and his angel, Jen Marie Across the Stars, she was the one that was modeling it on Instagram. Just absolutely beautiful. And the Disney parks, excuse me, the Disney parks actually have a new Star Wars The Phantom Menace 25th anniversary line available as well. And there's some new things on the Disney store. And one of the things that caught my eye is the Loungefly Queen Amidala. It's actually one of the outfits I was just talking about, which is it almost reminds me of like the M from the McDonald's, the headpiece. I hate to say it, but that's the easiest way that I can explain it. So, and it's beautiful because there's a lot of gold detailing on this one as well. And then there's some Darth Maul stuff that's really super cool. And then from her universe, there's a new Handmaiden type dress that even has a hood and everything. And this dress is absolutely gorgeous. And it has that ombre look that you expect from the handmaidens themselves. And it even has a Naboo symbol that is on the upper part of the bodice, just about underneath where the collarbone is on the shoulder there. So that's another one definitely want to check out for sure. Homesick Candles actually has their Star Wars edition of all of their candles. They are going to be discontinuing. So Homesick Candles has basically every kind of candle that you can think of that smells like something. They even have candles that represent each state smell, which kind of sounds funny, but in a way it's like, oh, what does my state smell like? But the Star Wars collection has all kinds of things. So it has Bounty, Millennium Falcon, Endor, Tatooine, the Death Star. There's one called The Rescue. And so all of these are going to be saying goodbye. In addition, they also have air fresheners for their car. So again, that is Homesick Candles. All of these notes will be in our show notes as well. So if you want to check out any of these, you definitely will want to do that. And the newest thing that I think is super cool is the Bradford Exchange has an aromatherapy essentials elements collection. And the number one thing that they have that's super cool is this Yoda on Dagobah kind of looking aromatic diffuser. And it's an essential oils collection actually is part of this. And this is a Light-Up Diffuser, which is super cool. It's actually $60 right now, also available in 2 installments of $30 a piece. And it has hand painted color changing ultrasonic Yoda diffuser, and it has fact cards that come with it. And the fact cards themselves actually have different things about aspects of Star Wars. So there's one called Force Wisdom, there's another one called Dark Energy, and then one called Force Focus. And those are actually the three names of the essential oils that come with whatever diffuser it is that you would happen to get. So there's a few different choices available. If you go to the Bradford Exchange, once again, you can check those out. And one of them has to do with Darth Vader, and it's kind of weird looking, I'm not going to lie, because there's a bunch of red diffuser sticks coming out of the top of his head. But but it's like, wow, okay. It's kind of little fireworks coming out of the top of his head there. But I thought it was a really cool way to, get your aromatherapy in. And they're all made with 100% pure essential oils, and they have different types of fragrances, and each one of them has a different scent. So you have to check that out at thebradfordexchange.com. So yeah, so a lot of fun stuff going on out there in the Star Wars universe, lots of different types of products that you can get your hands on. So once again, just check those out in our show notes. So I'm going to flip over to talking about my build on my cosplay for my original concept Mandalorian right now. But did you have any questions on any of the products that I just went over?
No, I don't, but I'm excited to hear about the cosplay. So tell us about it.
Well, if you've been following us for any length of time, and I know I have a lot of really faithful followers over on my Instagram, which is j.snips cosplay, I've been super excited to reveal my original concept Mandalorian that was based on Tahiri Vela. And what I came to find out was that Tahiri is not a very well known character. And she's actually appeared in 36 books, because I went to Wikipedia and I counted them up, and there's actually 36 different legend slash expanded universe books that Tahiri is in. So I don't know what it was that made me migrate toward her as a character, but I've always been enamored with her. I've always loved her story, her character arc, all of the trials and tribulations that she went through. And so this was a concept that I've actually been thinking about for a couple of years now. And so I really got serious about it about 10 months ago, sketched out my first ideas, thought about my color schemes, and said, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. And I'm going to create this, and it's going to be all my own. And so I did. And so I started out with the flak vest and sewing, and I went with a color scheme of teal and gold. And I wanted to bring in a lot of elements of Tahiri's life. So I was thinking, okay, she was born on Tatooine, orphaned, raised by Tusken Raiders. So what can I incorporate there? Okay, well, I've got the color of sand. So that's the flak vest. I've got the Tusken Raider influence. So I actually commissioned a beautiful gaffi stick from I call him a kid, but he's probably in his 30s, who knows? But his name is Ruben, and he goes by LazyTurtleWorks on Etsy and on Instagram. And so I did a lot of research into, what are some of the different types of gaffi sticks out there? Like, I could 3D print this, I could do this, I could do that. And so I wanted a couple of things that were definitely going to be statement pieces. And this gaffi stick was definitely one of those. It's all wood, and Ruben handcrafts this himself. And it's the layers of wood itself that make up the curve in the gaffi stick are all lathed and glued together and stained. Ruben actually contacted me and said, hey, I can burn a couple of names into this. What would you like? Well, first he said, I can burn a name into it. What would you like? And I said, well, Tahiri kind of has two names because of the whole Yuzan Vong thing. So could I potentially have both Tahiri and Rena for Rena Quad? And he said, sure. So I have Tahiri in Mandoa, and I have Rena in Orabesh. And then the carving and everything in it is just absolutely exquisite. So I'm just super, super thankful to Ruben for that. And so then I thought, okay, well, how can I incorporate Yuzan Vong? So obviously Tahiri has like these scars. I shouldn't say obviously, because if you don't know who Tahiri is, then you don't know what I'm talking about. But Tahiri went through a reshaping process where she was tortured by the Yuzan Vong, and she was left with these 3 raised scars on her forehead. And so I wanted to incorporate that onto my helmet. And so Cybercraft actually was the one that I commissioned for my helmet. And so I worked with them actually over a period of probably about 3 months, I want to say, back and forth. And probably, I mean, if I look back through the email chain, I think there's like 68 emails back and forth.
Wow.
Yeah, trying to get just the right colors and just the right combination and just the right everything that I wanted. And then I actually went with the Gar Saxon style. So that way I could have
Mm.
the spikes that came out of the top of the helmet, because the Yuzon Vong, that's what they have. They have like these spikes, these organic looking kind of spikes that come out of their armor and whatnot. So I wanted to incorporate that. The gold is for Tahiri's hair and for the sands. And then the teal I kind of played around with because she's often depicted in this kind of green jumpsuit. And I was like, I don't really want green because, it's kind of too Boba Fett. And then I already have Hera, which she's all green. So, I wanted something different. So I decided to go with the teal. And then from there, it was, how do I build this? So I started doing a lot of research, thinking, do I want to do 3D printing? Do I want to do foam? Ultimately, I landed on a little bit of both. So I got an Etsy file from another Etsy user named Grumpy Frog Props. So I got Grumpy Frog and Lazy Turtle. I don't know how I ended up with these, but there you have it. So Grumpy Frog Props, I bought this 3D print file, and then I was able to 3D print my gauntlets. Beautiful, beautiful print. Let me just tell you right now. And I'm in love with my gauntlets. And I ended up putting these blue fairy lights from Amazon into them for my whistling birds, because I looked on Etsy and an actual whistling bird set complete was like $150. And I'm like, I
Wow.
am not doing that, because my two statement pieces already were my helmet and my gaffi stick. And I kind of blew my budget on those. So I'm like, all right, the rest of this has to be discount Mando. So how are we going to do this? So that was one thing. And then I decided to go with foam, because I've worked with foam before when I built my fourth sister, and I was pretty comfortable working with foam. There were still some things that I didn't know about it, obviously. And so, I had to learn kind of along the way. One of the things that I learned was how to weather. And so I did a lot of research, and I asked around to some other cosplayers, and some use this latex masking, and which looks fantastic. Let me just say right now, but it works better with 3D printing because of the foam itself and what it's made out of with the EVA. It's not really compatible. So I found that using toothpaste and then painting over the toothpaste where I wanted the weathering to be, letting the paint dry, scraping off the toothpaste, doing it again so that there was just a little bit of the under layer showing through, painting it again, keep going. I ended up doing anywhere from 3 to 5 coats of paint, including using bubble wrap to create what looks like the patina on my chest armor. And so it was a little painstaking at times, because just getting the weathering to look just right. But it was definitely worth it in the end. And I'm really super happy with the way that it turned out. So the foam props themselves came from the patterns, I should say, came from an Etsy user named TristanMaker. And so if you need foam armor pieces, I went with the actual, like, the Mandalorian foam armor, and there's a lot of different types of patterns out there. So you can get one that's patterned after Boba Fett, you can get one that's patterned after Bo-Katan. So it really kind of depends on what you want to make. And so I just really liked the style of the Mandalorian, and I said, okay, this is the one that I want to do. So Tristan Maker was really, really kind, very accommodating with all of my questions, would get back to me right away on Etsy. Very great YouTube videos for tutorials that I was able to follow. And it was funny because he goes through everything really, really fast. So I was slowing it down to like quarter speed. So all you hear is, and the next thing you do is to take, and it was, I was cracking myself up. But so I did learn a couple of new techniques from Tristan Maker on how to cut different parts of the foam to create joints and height and dimension in foam, which was really fun to learn how to use. And then from there, it was basically kind of getting all of the accessories. So finding the right gloves. I actually repainted my son's Jango Fett blaster from when he was a little boy. I asked him first and I said, "Can I refurbish this?" So I did that. And then I reached out to another cosplayer because I knew, talking to people that are helmeted cosplayers, you cannot hear a word that they say at a con. So I'm like, I want one of those really nifty, like, speaker things. So I asked around, found the one that I wanted on Amazon. And then there was another Mandalorian cosplayer that basically hides their speaker in plain sight by weathering the speaker itself. So that's exactly what I did. So all of these are actually on my Instagram. In my stories, I have a highlight reel that has everything. So from literally day one of the sketch to my debut at Fan Expo Cleveland, I went through a couple of different types of pants. Still not quite sure if I want to stick with the teal pants. It almost kind of looks like I need to, now that I've looked at the pictures, I'm not exactly sure if I want to keep it that way. But when I did one of my knee guards, my pieces on the side for my rocket launchers and things like that, one of them, let you guys in on a little secret, one of them is a spark plug. And the other one is I cut off of the end of a hose attachment that we were no longer using, and I just attached it. So a lot of it is just being really resourceful with the things that you already have and figuring out how you can incorporate them into it. And then from there, I wanted her to look like a warrior. So I actually had the gal that does my hair. She got a hair piece that she put dreadlocks into and braided, and then added all of these like different types of jewelry to it to make it just look kind of Viking-ish all over the place. And so I incorporated that. And then I wore my own scars that I've worn before for Tahiri and attached those with spirit gum. And then I have this warrior makeup that I was wearing as well to go with it. The boots I actually got at a place called Clothing Warehouse, which I got them new for $2.50 and then weathered the heck out of them to make them look really dirty. And then at a thrift store, I bought a bunch of like old Coochie beaded necklaces and just kind of dangled them from my belts and created the holster. The holster is actually from my Kira costume and I modified it. And so that's what I put the Jango Fett blaster in. And then the gloves I got on Amazon. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So 10 months later, Tahiri made her grand entrance at Fan Expo Cleveland. She was very well received. I felt amazing, and the rest is history. So there you go.
That is quite the epic story for getting this thing together here. It looks fantastic. As you were saying, everyone should definitely head over to your Instagram account, j.snips cosplay, to check it out. I mean, I had the privilege of seeing some of the stuff as you completed it along the way. And every piece was just absolutely fantastic. I like the hair extensions, the dreads that you had for the costume. That was a nice touch, the way those come out of the helmet. And the weathering looks really, really good. That was much more of an involved process than I thought it would be after you told me what it was.
Oh, thank you. And the biggest compliment was another artist friend of mine, not Alan, but actually Ian Moss. You need to check him out as well on Instagram. But Ian looked at my paint job and he said the patina on that is just amazing. And so for me to hear that, he was like, I'm all about the texture and I'm a texture guy. And that is just awesome. So to hear that from someone who is a trained artist, because I am definitely not, was just really humbling and very encouraging as well. So I was really, really happy about that. But yeah, I mean, if anybody needs any kind of advice or has any questions on how to do something, I can tell you what I did. I don't consider myself an expert by any means or shape or form, but I just know what I did and what worked. And there are some things, I mean, I'll be honest, Dennis, there's some things that I definitely want to tweak. There's things that are attached by Velcro that I probably should do with magnets, which I did work with magnets on my gauntlets. And I will tell you, those little things were so strong. They're incredible. But Grumpy Frog Props actually had a link in the pattern for the 3D design for those gauntlets to where you could get the magnets that actually fit perfectly into that, and the brass rods that go into the hinges that are available for putting that gauntlet together, because the top and the bottom of the gauntlet were actually two separate pieces. So after I 3D printed it and painted it and everything like that, I had to drill into those hinges to be able to make them the right size to be able to get that rod in there to put those pieces together. And then I had to glue those magnets individually into the other side. So yeah, so there was that. And then another thing that was nice with TristanMaker and those foam 3D, or not foam, or not 3D, sorry. I'm losing my mind here, Dennis. So the foam patterns that I used is that you can scale them to your own size. So there are very explicit directions in there that I basically put in how tall I am, how much I weigh, and then it tells you like what percent you need to print the files at so that you get the right size foam armor for your body. So I thought that was really innovative and super cool. And I don't know if everybody does that or not, but TristanMaker does. And I really appreciated it.
Yeah, yeah. This character looks like it's straight out of season 3 of The Mandalorian, especially when they were training on that planet before they got attacked by the monster and stuff. That's where I envision seeing this one.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. And the Mandalorian mercs, when I was at Fan Expo Cleveland, the one guy was like, "Is that foam or is that 3D?" And I said, "It's foam." And he goes, "Ah." I go, "Why?" And he said, "Because to be a Mando merc, it has to be 3D printed. Like everything has to be 3D printed, or it has to be made out of like the vacuum form stuff, or that type of thing. So they don't allow foam." And the one guy goes, "Well, you can't even tell it's foam. It looks like it's 3D." And I'm like sitting there listening to these two Mando mercs like argue with each other because they wanted me to join the Mando mercs. And I was like, "You guys are so nice. Thank you." But yeah, ultimately, I mean, the Mando mercs are awesome, and they're in the 501st and the Rebel Legion. They're all just amazing people. Do I want to join one of those troops? Probably not, quite honestly. But they're just amazing people to hang around, and maybe I'll change my mind someday. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. They do a lot of good work. I'm at the
Oh,
local
fantastic work.
chapter down here in Dallas, and they were fantastic guys. So, and gals,
Oh yeah.
a lot of great costumes there.
Yeah,
Well,
they give up so much of their time for such great things.
well, if you don't have anything else you want to share about the cosplay, why don't you give us some quick hits about the convention in the last about 10 minutes or so that we got?
Sure. Okay. So yeah, on Friday, I was actually dressed as the X-Wing pilot version of Tahiri Vela. So I kind of decided to go with that theme. So I was not orange or green all weekend. This is actually the first time that I've attended a 3-day con where I didn't have body paint on. So I actually ended up wearing my Hera X-Wing pants with a white tank top and a leather jacket that I had. And I put my Tahiri scars on and some boots and my, um, what do you call those things? Blaster uh, contraption things around my leg. I don't even know what they're called.
The holster?
Canisters. Yeah. Well, around my calf.
Oh,
So
okay.
those little, um, they look like, I don't even know
The
what they are.
cartridges?
Yes, thank you. I
Okay.
couldn't think of the word. So so that was what I was on Friday, and, so I actually do volunteer with a group in my hometown area called Rubber City Cosplay, and so Rubber City actually comes from the fact that Akron, Ohio is where it hails, and so the Goodyear company, BF Goodrich and Goodyear, are the world headquarters is in Akron, so hence Rubber City Cosplay. And so it was a lot of fun interacting with people that way. And I got to help with a lot of the cosplay events and the cosplay meetups that day. So having people come over for, the Star Wars meetup and the Marvel meetup and that type of thing. And so, yeah, so that was mostly Friday. And then Saturday with my Mando it was just jam packed in there. It was crazy. But I did get to go to a panel that featured Heather Antos and Claudia Gray. And so Dennis and I will actually be jumping into some of the details on that just a little bit more as time goes on. And then I had a photo op team up with Diana Lee Inasano and Iman Esfandi, which was so much fun. So when I walked in, they were like, oh my gosh, because I was in my Mando. And I said to Diana, I said, will you hold my gaffi stick? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes. And then I turned to Iman and I said, will you hold my helmet? And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. So then we got this picture together, the three of us, which is awesome. I don't know how they always look so good when they take those pictures. Like I always get those pictures, dang, I look really good in that picture. How come I never look that good in real life?
Very photogenic.
Oh my gosh. So then I had a couple of autographs. So Diana Lee was actually one of those. So when I went up to her table, we actually ended up talking for quite a long time. And she was super duper sweet. So that was a really great experience. And then Iman was right next door to her as well. And a friend of mine was actually working Iman's line. And so I went back on Sunday when I was Weird Barbie. And when my 4-inch tall heels were getting to be too much for me as I was waiting for Alan Tudyk, I went over to Becca, who was working the line, and she was, with Iman, and there was actually nobody in Iman's line. So I literally just sat right down on the floor in front of his table and we just struck up a conversation. So I was just talking to Iman, and his handler was all about Weird Barbie. And she's like, oh my gosh, can I please take your picture? And I'm like, heck yeah. I'm like, do you want me to do the splits? And she goes, are you kidding? I'm like, nope. And so I did, and she just couldn't get over that. But Weird Barbie was very well received. As a matter of fact, I think I had more photographers and videographers that captured me as Weird Barbie than any other character the entire weekend, which is ironic because it was kind of a last minute thing on my part. And I love Weird Barbie. She's like my spirit animal. Tahiri's my other spirit animal. So yeah, I ended up in quite a few videos from the Fan Expo weekend, but so that was a lot of fun. And I did get to meet Alan Tudyk. And the best part about that, Dennis, I got to tell you, is that when he signed my photograph, he signed it in K2's voice. So he was writing, Jay, Cassian said I had to. And my heart just completely melted. And I had to go to him on Sunday because his line was so packed all day Saturday. I could not get anywhere near that line without wanting to wait like 2 hours. And there was no way I was going to do that on Saturday. So as it turned out, I met him as Weird Barbie, which was fine. So yeah, so the whole weekend in general was just fantastic. And I've told you this before, and I tell people this all the time, is I go to most of these cons like by myself and without a handler or anything, but other people just kind of step up and help. And I have so many people that I know through just doing all of this and the opportunities that is opened through the podcast and through cosplay and everything, that I never feel like I'm alone. And if I need help, I even hit people up in the parking garage, which I had to do on Saturday because I had to get my flak vest on and a piece of armor on my back. And so this couple was walking by and I'm like, hey, could you do me a solid for just a second? And they're like, sure, what do you need? And I'm like, could you Velcro me in the back, please? Because I couldn't drive, the hour plus to Cleveland in, my full Mando. So, but all in all, it was such a fun experience.
Yeah, you need a speeder bike for that.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah.
So true. So did you have any other questions, or are you ready to wrap it up?
No, you look fantastic. Your cosplays have all been fantastic and over the years, and I'm so glad to hear that the Mando is so received. What's great about that is that it's a character that means so much to you, but then Mandalorians are just like universally recognized, even if the Tahiri is not. And so it looks really good. I know I said it before, but I encourage everyone to go over to your Instagram page and check it out, because it's just something you have to see. It's you did a great job at describing and explaining it, but pictures are worth 1,000 words, and in this case probably 10. So yeah, definitely go look at it if you haven't done so.
Well, thank you, Dennis. That truly means so much because, as you said, this character really means a lot to me. I mean, I even had it down to the fact where I have a playlist on Spotify called Vela Vibes. And I went through and I picked out songs that I felt that Tahiri could speak through. And so I'll have to make sure that we get that link in our show notes so that anybody wants to check that out, they can. But I'll warn you, there's a lot of like heavy metal, hard rock, Some of the songs aren't exactly like appropriate for the whole family. So, listener discretion is advised, is all I'm going to say
Yeah.
about that. But all in all, I actually listened to it my entire way up to Fan Expo on Saturday, just kind of like get into the mood, get into the vibe. So, but it was a lot of fun, and I have had a lot of support, and I truly, truly appreciate that from everybody. I had people that were coming up to me at the con saying, "I followed your build," and so to a cosplayer, that just means so much. And just in general, just as a human being, that just means so much as well. So thank you to everyone out there who has supported me along the way. And I actually did reach out to Nancy Richardson, who is the creator of Tahiri Vela in the Legends books. And thank you, Dennis, for looking that up for me. I found her on Instagram, so we'll see if she
Cool.
gets back to me, because I wanted her to know, what I've done with this character, and hopefully she'll respond, and she'll be excited about the iteration that I've developed. So we'll see. Yeah.
I hope she gets back to you. Yeah.
I hope she does too. So that'll do it. Thank you for joining us for episode 720 of Podcast Stardust, and this episode of World Between Worlds for April of 2024. So before we go, we just want to let you know that we hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if so, please make sure to subscribe to Podcast Stardust on your podcatcher of choice. And I'd also like to remind you that you can find all episodes of the podcast on retrozap.com. And retrozap.com is also home to several other great podcasts covering everything from the MCU and DC to Dune and Star Trek and a whole lot more. So as always, we greatly appreciate a 5-star rating and reviews on whatever podcatcher you use, and especially if that's Apple Podcasts and also Spotify. Those two seem to drive up those algorithms just a little bit more than the others. But if you are so inclined to leave us reviews anywhere, we definitely appreciate that. And we also appreciate it if you would share the show and your favorite episodes on social media with your friends. So speaking of that, Dennis, could you remind everybody what those social media contacts are one more time?
All right. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, and X for that matter, at Podcast Stardust. We have channels on YouTube and YouTube Music, and a lot of comments end up happening over there. If you want to get into some real-time discussion with us, then head over to the RetroZap Discord page. You can find the link for that in the show notes. If you want to get t-shirts, you can find those at TeePublic, which will also be located in our show notes. We are still working with Saber Masters. They are currently selling their Ultimate Lightsaber 2.0 on a 2-for-1 sale, and you can get $10 off that if you head to sabermasters.com and use our code at the checkout, which is Stardust. And you can also just find the link for that in our show notes. Once again, on broken record. But with that having been said, Jay, you want to remind everybody what else you got going on with cosplay?
Sure. So, of course, J.Snips Cosplay, that's my Instagram. And I do have a couple of appearances coming up in early May for May the 4th. And you never know where else I'm going to be. So, I do have some really fun edits coming from a digital editor by the name of Judy Italian. So, I've got a really cool Fourth Sister coming up, an Ahsoka, a Hera, and then eventually this original concept Mandalorian will be joining the works as well. So, you can check out my Instagram for that. So, Dennis, what you got going on with Warp Trails?
So, as season 5, which is the final season of Star Trek Discovery, rolls on, my wife and I are covering it on Warp Trails. And you can find that on the RetroZap podcast feed on your podcatcher of choice. And if you want to catch our past episodes discussing the other Paramount Plus projects, then just head over to retrozap.com and you can find us talking about Lower Decks, previous seasons of Discovery, Picard, and Strange New Worlds.
So upcoming on the show this Friday, we have our Bad Batch episode review. That's the penultimate episode of the Bad Batch. And then we also have news coming up on Monday with a special review of the Visions comic #1 coming up next Wednesday. So with that, thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. And until next time, may the force of Star Wars fashion and cosplay be with you.